Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the On the Record podcast. I'm your host, Devin Watley. Today, my guest is NBC7 story producer and one of my best friends, Angela Kurysh. Angela, welcome to the show.
Dev. I'm so excited to be here. I'm glad we finally were able to make some time for me to hop on here. And I'm excited. I feel special to be one of your guests. You've had quite a few cool people on here.
Yeah. And, like I said, we want to bring special people and bring special episodes to the listeners. And hopefully this can end up being one of them. So, So first off, I want to talk about like your career. So you and I know each other from SDSU. We had time together in the Daily Aztec. And so you went to SDSU, you graduated with your journalism degree, media studies emphasis, yes. Right? And then you get from there to East County Times for a bit, then to OAN, and then now you're here at NBC. I wanted to start out first by just talking about like what brought you into journalism in the first place. Like why journalism? Why this?
Journalism, it's crazy too, because like when you're in high school and you're trying to figure out like what you want to do and where you want to go or what you want to major in, like I always was just like, okay, it has to be something like writing, because that was like, the subject that I was best in, that I thrived in. So I was like, why not journalism? And like growing up too, I was like always watching the news with my parents, and just that's like all we had on the TV. And I always thought like, oh, that'd be cool to like be an anchor one day or like work in that industry one day, because you can work anywhere. And so I just went with it and applied for schools and just stuck with it. I honestly, there are times that I really wanted to give up, but I just stuck with it because I was like, I just don't see myself doing anything else.
Yeah. And like, at least for me, I can say that like, when I was in high school, I was actually in my student newspaper, and it was funny because I only joined it because I just thought it would be like an easy elective for me to join. I wasn't really thinking about it like in a journalism sort of sense. And so like, I just joined it because it was an easy elective. Like one of my favorite teachers was teaching the class. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then, when I was about to graduate college, I actually was applying for political science majors in a lot of other colleges. And I was just like, with SDSU, I just picked journalism because I was like, yeah, why not? Like, and then it's funny just how it all ends up going, because now it's something that a field that I necessarily didn't have much love for in high school, but now it's something that I just absolutely love now and can see myself doing forever. But it's funny to see how it all plays out in that sort of moment. For you with your time in the DA, right? I mean, we had all these different sorts of trials and tribulations, pre-COVID, and then the pandemic, going online for a whole year, all those sorts of challenges. Is there any sort of favorite moment in the DA for you?
There's so many moments. I miss it so much. Honestly, that's where I feel like everyone's journalism career honestly blossoms, because I see a bunch of students at SDSU still that I follow that are in the Daily Aztec and stuff, and they're on Instagram on their bios, and they put things like journalist in training, and I'm like, you are a journalist. Like you're not in training. Like your career it doesn't just start when you graduate, like you're a journalist when you're in college. And I feel like I did some of my, not best journalism, but some of my most like real journalism while I was in school, because I was at school, going out, getting interviews, reaching out to people, visiting, places, getting B-roll, putting together videos. Like you did it all at your school newspaper, and that's journalism, whether you have the degree or not, So I definitely miss it. I think one of my favorite moments, let's see. Obviously, I think going to Vegas for the Mountain West tournament was like fun, just because it was like traveling and we were all like going as a team, and like we got to bond that trip. So that was really fun. And then I think another moment was just being able to roll with the punches and do the live broadcast in my backyard during COVID. I think that was just a really cool move that we pulled, but the studio was closed. Like we couldn't do anything. COVID was like, it had just happened, and we were like deciding like a month before school started, are we going to be online or are we going to be going in person? And we've decided the whole year would be online. So I was like, okay. And I talked to Mackenzie Stafford is who she was the live producer. I was multimedia editor. And I was like, let's just do it in my backyard. Like, I have a table, we'll be socially distanced because we'll be outside. Like, we'll just film there and, you know, do the best we can. And we did it. And we did it throughout the entire year and just had a little routine going, and everyone that was comfortable with doing it and coming in and, you know, trying to get something for their reels or get experience or learn how to, you know, have that on-camera presence. I still wanted to be able to do that for the students because that's what editors had done for me. And if they didn't, you know, create that outlet for me or like push me to do it, I wouldn't have done it. So I know what it's like. And I wanted to be like, you know, come do it, like come anchor, like just because schools close doesn't mean you can't get the content and the, you know, practice that you need. So I think that was a moment because, you know, you never know what can go wrong, and news is so like, you just never know with news. And with technical difficulties and things like COVID, you have to improvise. And I feel like I really learned how to do that just by that experience. And so.
Yeah. And don't forget that you also won section of the year, by the way. Let's not forget that.
And we hadn't, I don't think video has won best section of the year in, I don't know how many years, but like, are you kidding me? How could we not have won that section? But I mean, you were a part of that section too. So that was, it's a win for all of us.
Yeah. I mean, like, at least for me, I can say one of my favorite moments was like, you know, getting to cover sports during COVID was like such a different experience because you had no fans, you had like all these other things going on. Right. And we weren't even sure that we were going to be able to cover the games to begin with because they were barring people away and things like that back then. And so like just getting to cover sporting events and like all these other things when there were like no people around, and it's such like a euphoric sort of experience because I mean they're never going to have that again. So that was one of my favorite moments. And then of course, like you said, when I got the chance to go on the Vegas trip before COVID happened, all of us in the video section or whatever, that was like one of my favorites because it was like one of the first times like where I got to actually bond people outside of just school. Cause it feels like, you know, all of us, you know, we were pretty close knit and tight at school, but we weren't really doing much outside of it. So it was like, that was kind of one of the first sort of things.
Exactly. I feel like you really get to know your team and bond with them when you're traveling with them. It just is that way because you're all together, but you're taken out of the environment that you all are normally accustomed to. And I don't know, it's just always a fun time to go and cover things that are going on in other places. Yeah,
of course. And like now, like with your career, you go from multimedia editor at the DA to print stuff with the East County Times, and then obviously now you're in broadcast, and you've been broadcast for a bit with OAN and NBC. You've gotten a chance to dip into all three sort of mediums, right? With video making to writing to now producing. Is there a favorite or a preference that you have out of the three, or is it kind of hard to pick?
So, right, like there's so much you can do in journalism, and I didn't realize that until like I guess my later years in school when you're like looking for internships or like little part-time gigs that you can get. But I was like, man, like a newspaper sounds cool. Like I've always liked broadcast. Like I've always wanted to learn how to, you know, produce and do behind the scenes besides just like, you know, doing MMJ stuff, like being a reporter. You know, you could even get into meteorology. There's just so much that you can do. So I feel like my internship, I was at East County Magazine, so I was doing a lot of like city council meeting coverings, like local stuff that was going on in East County. It was fun. I got to talk to a lot of people and like learn more about the community. But print is just, if I'm being honest, it's just not something I could do all day, all the time. Like I feel like that would get it was getting not boring, but like a little bit draining for me. Just in the sense that like, you know, you gotta sit through that county meeting and then wrap it up and like make it, you know, not necessarily dumb it down, but like pretty much wrap everything up. And it's confusing, all the things they talk about at these meetings. So it was just a lot, but I did get to do a lot of really cool feature stuff, which was super fun, like grand openings of businesses and restaurants, and like meeting those people were really cool. And actually East County Magazine like has a lot of, I mean, they have like over 1 million readers every month. Like, I think it's like 2 million readers every month. So it was like a cool platform to be a part of. And I loved my boss, and she let me freelance for her even when I finished college, until I found something else, and would always, try to help me find something that, was more something I was looking for. And I actually got to bring my like video editing skills to her. So I had done like a little feature package that she was able to upload because she didn't really have any video content. And I was like, well, I could help you with that. And like, that could be something new for you. So we ended up doing that. That was really fun. And then I wanted to try something else and find something that was, full time. I was graduating, so I was applying to so many places in San Diego, newspapers and news stations. And OAN was very quick to respond. And I actually had a colleague that was working there too. So I kind of reached out to her and was like, what's going on? And went to OAN. I was a writer there. I wanted to be a video editor, but they needed writers. Became a writer, learned a lot about politics. I had always been doing, local kind of like student coverage, East County, and this was like national news, politics, economy, like totally out of my comfort zone. But I learned so much, and it was like very interesting to see that side. But ultimately wanted to go back to local because I care more about like issues that affect people directly, and that just kind of interests me a little bit more. So I, just kept applying, you just don't stop. I really wanted to stay in San Diego too. I know journalists have to, be willing to move, and I think I'd be willing to move one day, but I haven't finished my time in San Diego yet. So I'm really blessed that NBC gave me the chance, and I'm so excited to be there. It's been like 3 months. 3 months.
Heading in 3 months, yeah. Which is crazy because it feels longer. It feels like you've been there longer.
It does feel like I've been there longer, but not in like a bad way at all. Like, it just feels like I'm like picking things up and getting used to it and, adjusting.
Yeah. Is there any sort of favorite part? Let's take the listeners into like what a day-to-day stuff looks like for you at NBC.
A day-to-day, honestly, okay, well, weekends and weekdays are very different. And with my schedule, which you've gotten to kind of experience lately, we work midnight to 8 a.m. Because we prepare the morning shows at 4:30, 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. So I work Wednesday through Sunday. So on Wednesday, I go in at 12 every day, and we start putting the show together, figuring out what stories, what headlines, or we're going to send a reporter that day. Pretty much, I'm helping the producers. I'm there to help them with the show, which is, I hope I'll be story producing for your shows, Devin, that you're going to be. I have been story producing for you, which has been fun. And hopefully I'll be producing soon too. But let's just go in and, you're there to help put the show together. Writing scripts, editing video, editing B-roll, getting sound bites, packages, all of that. And it's just fun. It's different every day, and seeing the producers stack their shows and seeing, how smooth a show can go based on certain, elements. It's really fascinating, and being back there in the booth too, it's a rush. It's a thrill. It's really exciting. I'm happy to be in this environment and learn from all of you.
Yeah, it's at least for me, I can say like now that I've been in the producer gig in the mornings for the past 3 weeks, like it's been such a 180 because I'm so used to like doing all these other things like you. I was in the same role where I was story producing, so I would be editing like a ton of clips for days, done a ton of clips for the dayside shows, and then doing a little bit of writing here and there. Then now it's like I'm going from that to planning out and structuring out a whole 30-minute show, and then trying to figure out like, oh, what stories do I want here? How does it all flow? How do I integrate? And even all these other little aspects that like you don't think about beforehand, like even communication and like how how to work with certain team members and things like that. I think it's been a really interesting growing process for me so far. I've gotten through a lot of trials and tribulations, but that's a great part, is like that at least for me, I feel like I'm getting better. I'm learning a lot more about everybody and how to do this every single day that I do.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, I learn every day too, just by like observing all of you guys and seeing how you all, put together your shows and why you do things a certain way. But yeah, it's stressful. Like, it's very like nerve wracking. Like, don't get me wrong. I want to produce, but like there's a lot of pressure. You're like directing and putting together a live show. So
yeah, it's a different, sort of, like, I can give one example. Like, one of my reporters, missed lot in the top of my show. So I had to move them down, float them down in my A block. So it's like, you have everything planned out, then the reporter's not there, and then you got to move them down just to make up for time. So it's like it's a definitely a stressful thing, but I kind of like that. Like, I thrive under pressure. At least I feel like I like to thrive under pressure.
You just always got to be on your toes and be prepared, because you never know if like certain things are going to take a longer time. Like anchors, talk a little bit longer or read a little bit faster. So like you really never know. And like certain things happen in breaking news and something cuts in and then it's going to cut back into your show. And it's like, where do you go? Where do you start again? So it's a lot, but like I get the thrill. I get the excitement of it. And especially when it goes smooth, viewers don't know the stress of it. They just see a clean show. So.
Yeah. I was always telling people, I'm like, if they did a behind the scenes reality TV show of what goes into like newsroom stuff, it would probably be like a top 5 in terms of ratings.
So it's really interesting. I mean, all the people I've met have been really great so far, but it's just such a wide variety of us. Like, there's young people, old people, diverse, you're working with everyone. You're all working together. You all need to communicate. It's not like, you're only reporting to one person. Like, we all are communicating, which I really like and I think is important. We all know each other's names. It's not,
it's not like no quiet outsiders.
No, exactly. Okay. There's everyone talks to everyone, which I think is necessary and important. And I just like it. I like being able to talk to everyone. We have down times, but
yeah, yes, yeah. Now everybody has their own sort of welcome to journalism moment. What was yours?
My welcome to journalism moment. I don't know. I feel like when I was doing like live stand-ups on Twitter for the Daily Aztec is when I felt like, okay, this is like, and before COVID, pre-COVID, we were doing live broadcasts with like 2 different cameras, a teleprompter on one, make sure you know the information for the other camera because there's not a teleprompter on that one. And like, regardless of how many viewers there were, like that felt like real, and it felt like real journalism. So I think probably like the biggest one, the first one that was like, okay, like I like this and I want to do this, was when we were at the Democratic primaries in downtown, and we were doing like live hits of, the polls and the precincts. And, we had our old multimedia editor, Jack. He was live producer, actually. He was there, and he would, tell me, he's like, okay, you have 2 minutes, write something up, figure something out to say, you're going to go live. And he's like, boom, ready, 30 seconds. And I'm like nervous. I'm like freaking out. Like, what am I saying? Can I look down at my phone? Can I like read my notes? Like freaking out. But I don't know. It ended up going well. And it was like a rush for me also, but I felt accomplished, and I felt like it was something I could do. So it was exciting. And that, I feel like, was like, okay, I'm in this.
Yeah. I think one of my moments would be like when I got the chance to interview President De La Torre for a story that she did about her podcast. That was like sort of like my first like real like big kind of journalism story where I was like, oh, I can, like, it gave me the confidence to think that I can do this, because I was talking to like the president of the university. You know, she's very secluded. Nobody talks to her at all. Nobody's talked to her since I talked to her, which is just crazy to think about. But like, you know, just in that sort of environment where like you're talking to this like high official and you're like having to ask them all these questions and, you know, hold them accountable for certain things. And I think like in that moment, that was kind of giving me the sort of confidence to know that, okay, like as a student journalist, like I can actually do something with this. Like I can go somewhere. This is going somewhere. Like this isn't something that I can like, you know, this is going to flatline or something. Like I actually got potential. I can actually do this. So that would be my moment. But also another thing was like, when I had the Santee plane crash newscast for NBC7, that was sort of also another like welcome, not a welcome-ish moment, but like an official welcome to the professional journalism world moment, because it was like, you know, that breaking news hits at like 1:30 and we're coming in early, and like all of a sudden we get like all these different videos coming in, and like, oh, producers want this, they want that, they want this, you know, all these different things. And we're trying, you know, we're sending 3 reporters out there at the scene. And, you know, it's just crazy to, in that moment, it was crazy to think about. And then now, like, you know, looking back, I've won an Emmy for it, for team coverage, which is just, it's just so exciting. But what's even crazier is like that moment, I wasn't even scheduled to work on that day. I actually subbed in for someone,
Wow.
which is just crazy to think about. Yeah, I subbed in for someone.
Well, thank God you did.
I know, it's just wild. But those would be my 2 welcome to journalism moments, would be interviewing President De La Torre and then obviously that plane crash story.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you are now an Emmy award-winning journalist, so that's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still the same person, everybody, for the listeners out there. I'm still the same person. It does, you know, winning an Emmy doesn't really change you at all.
No, but
you know.
it's definitely like a rewarding accomplishment, and you know, another push to like do what you do.
Oh yeah, certainly. I mean, like, you know, now that I got an actual trophy here that's mine, I own it. It's crazy.
You make it seem, I mean, you're showing us that it's literally possible. So we just have to work hard.
Yeah. Work hard, put your mind to it, and dream big. Another question that I wanted to bring up for you was that if, you know, and I think about this often, if COVID were to never happen, say this pandemic were to never happen, how do you think things with your career would have been different? Do you ever think about that?
How would my career have been different? Ooh, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I don't even want to think about that, because I feel like I don't want to be like everything happens for a reason, but I feel like it does. You know, like it was challenging. I feel like I probably would have had more opportunities if we weren't in a pandemic, and I would have been able to fulfill the plans that I had set. But like plans change, and I feel like they changed for a reason, and they weren't necessarily like, they didn't seem like they were the, you know, changes for the better by any means, but it was still possible to come out successful with everything that happened, and make things work. And you know, I may have not gotten to where I'm at as soon as I wanted to, but I don't know. I don't regret any of my opportunities or jobs or anything that I've done in the past. So I feel very fortunate and grateful that I've been able to work at multiple places in San Diego, and, you know, very different jobs too within the journalism industry.
Yeah, I think like, at least for me, like you said, I don't think about it much either, because it's just like, I feel like if not for the pandemic, I had all these different opportunities that were granted in front of me. And I feel like, you know, if not for the pandemic, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So, at least in that sort of aspect, I don't think about it in a sense of like how it would have been different. I do think about like what opportunities we could have had with the DA if COVID never happened, because, you know, obviously they had all these big things going on with basketball and all these other sports and all these other things going on. But like you said, I also feel very fortunate to just about like, just being in my job that I'm in now and being where I'm at, thinking about how far I've come from, because it's like, I mean, when it's crazy to think about COVID being, where it was 2 years ago, and, us being in college, and now here we are working for NBC and all these different things. And it's crazy to think about. I don't know if your mind ever gets blown about that, but it's just like, I think about it and I'm like, wow, like we all have come so far.
I love where we work. I'm excited to be there. And it does feel like I've been there for a while, but it also feels like still a fresh new start for me. And you just like can feel that there's so much room for growth working there. And it seems like within reach for sure. So I'm
yeah. So now I want to move into Ukraine, because obviously you are Ukrainian American. You have family that was in Ukraine. You actually wrote this beautiful story in the UT, this op-ed about the Ukraine conflict that like was really, really powerful and really compelling. And I wanted to ask you a couple of things about it first off. So in that story, in the first line, you mentioned this quote where it's like, I don't go to sleep until the sun rises in Kyiv. What do you mean by that? Like just adding that in there.
This was when things kind of first began in February, end of February. Like it shook the world. It was on every news station at all times. It was, the biggest thing going on. And of course, like having family still there and, seeing not necessarily I have family that I'm super close with, but, my parents and their parents and their loved ones are there. And it's like seeing how sad my parents were, like the thought of their home being destroyed and everything they grew up with, and, everything that makes Ukraine what it is and its history, it's just all being destroyed, and it's like nothing anyone can do about it. Like it's just, such a hopeless feeling. And I think seeing my parents so sad, and, my dad was staying up every night making sure, like, just to know what was going on. You just couldn't take your eyes off of it. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I was up probably the first month. I was up every night until the sun would rise in Kyiv, or just like until I got so tired I would fall asleep, like staring at my phone. But I was just always like invested in what was going on and seeing what was happening, and, communicating with my parents that were communicating with family in Ukraine and make sure they were okay, or figuring out if they're going to, leave. And a lot of my family did leave, which is good. My aunts and cousins and stuff, but the men can't leave. So still have family there, but they're okay. Not that things have necessarily gotten better. I mean, it's sad to say that we're kind of just used to it by now, because it has over 100 days, and it's just, there are moments where it's bad, moments where it fizzles out, moments where it's bad again, and it's like you just don't really know what's coming next. But I don't know. I still think about it and get sad, but I think my parents are trying to look on the brighter side and, be grateful that everyone's safe, that we know, and I don't know, just keep praying and hope for the best. So I feel like for me, as long as my parents are doing okay, like it makes me feel a little bit better, because it's like that hopelessness. Like I don't want them to feel that. I hate when, especially not living with them in the same city. Like I want to be with them. I want to comfort them, and I can't. And it's just, it's a bad hole to get into, but they've been really positive. But they've been really good about staying positive, and I think that reflects on me too. So yeah, just gotta keep praying, praying for the best.
Yeah, of course, as always. War always has like this emotional impact for a lot of families, whether they're indirectly or directly involved. I mean, how has it impacted your family? I know you mentioned that you were staying up at one point staying up till the sun rises in Kyiv, but like, has it, in that sense, like, has your family been able to like, hold it together during this sort of like hard moment?
I mean, yeah, they have been. I think it was a lot in the very beginning, but they've kind of just adjusted and like learned to accept it. As unfortunate and sad as it is, I think they've kind of just accepted that it is what it is. And, if something could have been done, it would have been done. And now we just have to like hope for the best and hope that things fizzle out and come to some sort of agreement at some point before it gets bad. But I don't know. I think they've done a good job at learning to live with it, as unfortunate as it is, and being grateful that like their direct family members are safe. I know like my cousin, he's a Marine here in the US, but he is fighting in Ukraine right now. Actually, he volunteered to go, and so we communicate with him and make sure that he's doing all right. And he's out there on the fields, but he's good. So it's just a little bit of that worry in the back of your head. Like, you're so proud of them, and you're like, they're fighting for democracy. They're fighting for Ukraine. And so you're proud of them, but you're like worried at the same time. So it's kind of like hard, but I don't know. We just keep on keeping on. Like, there's not really much else we can do except I feel like when it first started, you're moping around and you're sad, and at some point you have to just accept that there's like not much you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Like with that conflict and all these things, you mentioned about how proud you were of like the Ukrainian people. And I think like a lot of people are very prideful. I mean, nobody expected them to, be still in it. They're holding out, and they're doing strong, by the way. And, President Zelensky, not choosing to leave, and, standing by his people, holding down the bunker, all these other things. Like, just how prideful does it make you feel, like, as a Ukrainian American, to kind of just see your, see the country doing well?
I've never been so proud. And it's like, I was talking with my parents, and we were like saying it's like kind of unfortunate that like Ukraine is like put in the spotlight right now and being recognized amidst like an invasion of their country and like a threat to their democracy. Because like, I mean, growing up and going to school, like, you tell people you're Ukrainian, not a lot of people know where that is or know what that is. So now I feel like it's cool that people are like learning about it, and there's more exposure on Ukrainian culture, because I mean, it's what made me who I am. It's, Ukrainian is my first language. Like, my parents are both from there. They were lucky enough to come here and give me a better life than they had. And I'm so grateful, and I love my culture. I love being, different. I don't meet too many Ukrainian people. I'm hoping I can.
Yeah.
I've met some though, and it's been cool. It's been cool to be able to like communicate with people, because I'm not really speaking Ukrainian here in San Diego. Only really on the phone with my parents and grandparents and family and stuff. So.
I think it's been really exciting to kind of just see like all the different protests, at least that have happened in the last like couple months here in San Diego. Like, you're seeing everybody just come out with like all the Ukraine flags and protesting with pride. And at least for me, just as like somebody who, is watching from afar and covering it in the news, it's like, it's really exciting to kind of just see how even people locally here in San Diego are rallying behind Ukraine.
It's definitely like heartwarming to see. And I feel like that it helps a lot that people like are aware, and even though they can't really do anything about it either, just like showing that they care is a lot too, because I feel like, protests don't necessarily like get you or create, change ASAP, but I feel like it definitely makes a statement, and it's a push towards something. And I think just people showing their support means a lot to people that are going through it. And are constantly worrying about their family in Ukraine, whether they're here or in Ukraine. But just, I don't know, the whole world coming together was very like heartwarming and I don't know, just touching, and like kind of feel like we're reassured that like things are going to be okay and that they know that this is wrong. And it helps. Like if people want to sit around and say like protests aren't going to do anything, like it helps. Like it helps in an emotional aspect for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. No doubt about it. Another hot button like issue that's been in the news lately has been about abortion. Obviously, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade. It was crazy because I was driving home from work. It was around 7-something in the morning. I was driving home from work. I get an alert on my phone as I'm driving, and I thought it was fake. I was like, "What?" Like, you know, I didn't think it, I was just in shock. I couldn't believe it. I was just and like I had this sort of like sinking, permeating feeling that just going through the rest of my head throughout the rest of that day. I mean, it came to me as quite of a shock. But like, obviously, you were at work and you were actually about to go do the news cut-ins.
Some of
during that moment
got cut.
Yeah.
No, it was crazy. I mean, first of all, I'm devastated. I mean, just regardless of, you know, what your beliefs are, any woman should be furious right now. Like, I just don't know how someone's beliefs could be more than someone's rights. But yeah, I was at work working on some editing for the 11 a.m. show, and I had my headphones on because I was editing clips and whatnot. And through my headphones, I got like a breaking news alert that we were cutting in through the show, stand by, special report. And so I was like, what? Okay. And so we all of us in the newsroom, like looked at the TV, turned it up, and we were watching it, you know, the announcement happen, and just in shock. Like we were all silent. No one said anything. We were just looking at the TV, like can't believe, like we could not fathom that it was real, that it was actually a thing. And I don't know. I was in shock. I was shaking a little bit, honestly. Just devastated, just mad. Like I don't even know. I feel like, especially this past week, like on social media, it's all you see too. And it's like, I'm glad people are like aware that this is, you know, stripping women away from I guess it is a fundamental right to have control over my own body. But according to a few people, they don't think so. And so that's what makes me furious. And like seeing all of it just like triggers me even more. I just get mad, and I get into like phases where I think about it and I'm so mad, and then I'm like, I need to relax. Like, yeah, being mad isn't gonna like change anything right now, but yeah,
it's a devastating moment. I mean, I just thought about like, you know, and I've been thinking about this recently too, is like just, and all the stories that have come out of women who have been like in ectopic pregnancies and have had to like, you know, do, you know, take an abortion or do all these things. And like, I think about all these different stories of all the women that have, you know, been put out about abortions. And I'm just like, it makes me devastated, you know, knowing that like the right to like a safe abortion is just, is gone. Like, you know, it's sad. It makes me sad.
Banning abortions isn't going to stop them. Like, you know, the rich, the privileged, they're going to be able to get them still. It's putting so many people at risk. It's taking a right away from me. Like that in itself is like what makes me so mad. And I just don't know how they can overturn something like that. And like amendments exist for a reason. Like, has anyone maybe ever thought like the Constitution's bad? Like we like fight for it and fight, you know, Republicans fight to preserve it. And it's like, for what? Like, why? Like, change. I don't know why change is bad. I don't know why we're going by this document. Like, it's, you know, it has, like, it can't change. So that's just kind of, I mean, it's just really sad. I know here in California, we're so lucky, and I'm so proud to be in the state and from the state. And I'm proud of like our lawmakers that are making it a safe haven for women that want to come and travel here and get care, because I don't care what anyone says or what anyone thinks, abortion is healthcare and it should be done in a safe environment with a doctor, and it should be provided. It is healthcare, period. If you want to take care of women, that should be provided. And it's only getting harder now because women are going to have to travel and try to figure it out. And you just don't, like, the people that are deciding it have no idea what it's like to even bear a child. So it just makes no sense. You have no idea what it's like to have to make that choice alone is already so hard. And to not be able to have that choice is just insane to me. And another thing people don't realize is like, who is and I know it's not common, especially not in the US, because we have more, like healthcare has evolved and it's definitely better now than it was. But regardless of if you're at risk at pregnancy, women can die. Like, you can die. You never know, like, what could happen. What if there's a complication after you deliver the baby and something happens? Like, it is risking your life regardless. Like, having a baby, you are risking your life. You are creating a human being in your body and delivering it into a world, and that takes a toll on your mental health and your physical body, and you can die. So I just don't understand why it has to be like facilitated, or like you have to have a reason as to why you want. I shouldn't have to explain myself. It's like not anyone's business but mine and my doctor's. And like just thinking about it and seeing seeing things on Twitter too, but thinking about like the fact that I don't have control over my uterus. I don't, like, I have less rights than my mother did. It's just like absurd.
It's crazy.
And to like, just because you're pro-choice, it doesn't mean you're pro-abortion. You just respect women enough to give them the opportunity to make that choice themselves. Like, set any of those beliefs aside. Like, it's a right. And I just don't, that's why I mean, seeing like men that are, pro-life, that already makes me mad. But women, it's like, girl, what are you doing to us? So I don't know. It's just, I feel terrible for all the women that are going to suffer and die. And like, things are just going backwards and history is like repeating itself, and it's awful, and something tragic is going to happen before, like, things are going to get worse before they get better, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's very tragic. And I think, like, for the men in this situation, I think it's important that, like, with the women that you support in your life, whether that's like your mom, your girlfriend, your best friend, whatever, I think it's more important now than ever that you support them, especially because this is like, like, this is something they go through every day, and men don't go through this at all. So,
yeah,
their support's more important now than ever.
It's like you're forced into this situation, and like, no matter what, like, when will the men be held accountable? If a woman, it takes two. The last time I checked, it takes two. So for me to be forced to be accountable for the pregnancy, when will the man be held accountable? Like, child support isn't enough. Like, it's not at all fair. Not at all fair. It's just like, and I also feel like in the society that we live in, especially now that this is overturned, it's like women will never win, because it's like, okay, if I get an abortion, I'm a murderer. If I have the baby, but I don't have if I have the baby, like, pre-marriage, if I have a baby out of wedlock, I'm a whore. And if I have the baby and the baby daddy leaves, I should have picked a better baby daddy. That's like every case, every scenario, I'm looked down upon. So either way, we lose, and now we lose the option to pick when we want to be a mother. So it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's just completely heartbreaking. One of the things I also want to talk about with this is like, with these big news issues with abortion, with Ukraine, how important is it for us as journalists to kind of like really be able to provide good quality, accurate reporting? And that's like, even regardless of if you're national or even if, in us in a local position, how important is that, with these like big issues and these big sort of decisions that people in high authority are making?
I think, obviously, as journalists, we're still human and we still have certain, things we stand for and certain things we believe in. But I think as much as like sometimes we don't want to we have to put our feelings aside regardless, but I think the most important thing is really showing both sides. As much as you might not agree with one, I think it's so important to show it and not hide anything from people, no matter how it might make them feel or how you're worried it might, affect a person. I think, just it has to be covered on both sides. We can't push a certain agenda. And I think that's like the most important thing, especially working for mainstream media. Like, we are a local, but like we are, NBC, and I think it's super important that our locals stay, as objective as we can. Like, it is super, super hard, and any journalist and anyone knows that, and I feel like everyone says that too, but it's true. Like, whenever story by story, like if it's something that's controversial, like we make sure, and I feel like our newsroom, especially my shift, does a really good job at showing both perspectives or all perspectives, depending on what the issue is. And I think that's just the best thing you can do, and make news in a way that people can get the facts and formulate an opinion on their own without, being suggestive about something. I feel like that's my constant effort in all my writing that I do.
Yeah, certainly. No doubt about it. And in that aspect, I also think there's a way where you can incorporate storytelling, but also be factually correct and and accurate with the facts. And I think with this, with these big issues, I think that sort of mantra is more important now than ever, right? Because it's obviously you want to provide the facts and be accurate, but being able to also tie in a story and connect it personally to people, that sort of adds on to the overall thing that we're trying to showcase to the viewers.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of adds on top of that.
And I think that's the great part about working for a local, is because you can tell a story that is emotional, that is, true and authentic, because it's not something that's going on in the mainstream media. You're tying how that is affecting people around you, and seeing what's important about it in your community, and how that issue that has become a world issue or an international issue or national issue, how it's affected your local community. And I think that's why I like working for a local station so much, because you see things going on in the world and the people that are directly affected by it, but how is the people that are around you affected by it? I didn't know there were so many Ukrainian Americans in San Diego until, all of this happened, and, people started coming out and doing all these protests, and I was seeing, interviews and families that are in Ukraine and Ukrainian business owners in San Diego, and it's just, I would have not known that all these people are actually being directly affected by it here.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how how much influence the local and the people of the people of the place that you cover in. Ooh, try this tongue twister. How that all ties into the stories that you cover. I think that's kind of like the beauty of this whole profession, is like you find these just gems of stories within all these big broad issues. There's all these diamond mine of gems of stories that you can find within it. And so now I wanted to segue back a little bit into journalism a bit. I forgot to mention and ask you earlier, but like we all have our own goals and aspirations where we want to head into this business. What's your sort of goals, aspirations for yourself?
Everyone at NBC has been asking me this, Devin. Like I said, it really does just seem like a place that there's so much room to grow, and they want to get you to where you want to be. And the thing is with me, I don't even know yet. Like, in all honesty, I don't even know yet, because it all sounds so interesting and it all sounds like something I want to do. And I really just feel like right now I want to learn everything and just learn everything about producing, learn everything behind the scenes. Do I want to do on-camera work one day? Yeah, like that sounds fun. That sounds great. But I'm really enjoying learning about producing, just because it was something I was ready to learn in college. It was something I was ready my senior year I was ready to run my own broadcast. And I didn't get to do that. I didn't get to run a studio and learn how to, use softwares for live production. I didn't get to do that. And now I feel like I'm getting that back by being at NBC and learning it from the best of the best. And so I feel really lucky. So in a sense, I guess I could, not that I feel like behind, but like I got that time back and I'm really enjoying it. And I feel like where I'm at, if I work really hard, I can get to where I want to go next. But where I want to go next, I feel like digital. I really want to get into more digital stuff. I feel like that's where it's at. That's where our generation is at. That's where they're getting their news. And I feel like we can really take what we do for, television and incorporate it in social media in like a very productive and interactive way. And so I want to get more into that. And I feel like I already know who to go to for that. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting too, because now you're seeing on like TikTok, like all these people with the news outlets are making TikToks and like explaining news to all these, kids in the younger gens. And it's like, and that stuff wasn't even possible 5 years ago. So now it's like the adaptation of the technology and how things are progressing. I mean, you have news podcasts, you have all these other things, people going behind the scenes on news and in certain podcasts and certain streaming shows. I think it's just crazy to just think about like how much the field is the field of journalism has adapted in like the last like even 3 years. Just crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can do, and like it's fun because you either you're behind the scenes crafting the show from every word to every graphic to every transition. Like that in itself is so interesting and fun to learn, and that's something I'm kind of into at the moment right now, just being in the position that I'm in and, learning from you guys. So I want to get better at that and kind of like master that before I like hop into anything else. But I definitely want to work more with digital media, like I said, and definitely want to like shadow some reporters and see how, and shadow some MMJs and see what a day-to-day is like for them, and kind of get what that aspect is like, because I loved making packages in college and running the multimedia section. It was fun. I love video making, and storytelling through videos is super fun to me. So I think that's maybe where my future is. But you gotta like sacrifice certain things, because I really want to go, and I literally was deciding between this job and another job where I'd have to move out of state. And I was just like, man, like I want to be in, like, I'm not done here. And this opportunity came at like the right time, because if it hadn't, then I would have been like, okay, I'm moving out of state. Like, that's what's meant to be. But it just happened so fast and at the right time. And it just felt like a sign that was like, yeah, you're not done here yet. Like, here's this. You've been wanting this for a while. Like, here's this.
Get settled in for a bit.
So I was like, okay, like, thank God. I was like sitting here and worried too, because I had like already, you know, renewed my lease, because I was like, I'll find something in San Diego. Like, I'll still work. If I have to work at my restaurant job until I find something, like, I will. And fortunately I did right before I decided if I was going to move or not. And so it felt like the right thing. And now I know that it was the right thing.
Yeah. You know, as like I can say, we're happy to have you here at NBC. You know, having the honor of working with one of my best friends at work is like just
I know.
It's awesome.
We have it nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like you can't even write stuff like that up to be working with your best friend. So it's like,
it's just like, I just
crazy.
like look back on it now. I was so worried, like, during graduation last year, like this time last year, a little bit more, and just being like, what am I going to do? Like, where am I going to go? What's going to happen? Like, am I going to get the job that I want? And like, you apply to so many places and you're just keeping your fingers crossed and like uneasy. And I was like, okay, if I don't find anything for a year, I'll have to like move back home. Like, I'll have no way to like really support myself here. This isn't where I'm from, but like, God, I wanted to stay. I love San Diego. And it all worked out. So it's just like such a weight lifted off my shoulders, and like was a huge sigh of relief when I got this opportunity. And it felt like all my hard work had paid off. And if you really put your mind to something, no matter how many times you apply, just keep pushing and keep
doing it.
You just got to be persistent. You really do. And it was something I was not good at, because I hate to be a burden and I hate to bug people. But at the same time, like, if you want something, you've got to be a little annoying about it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
And when it comes to your career, like, take risks, ask questions, even like take risks. Even if you look dumb, do it. Learn from your mistakes. That's like just like the best advice I could give to someone that's like post-grad looking for into whatever industry. Just fight for it. Just push. Be annoying.
Yeah, I think it's like that's one of my own advices is like strive high, like you know, stand out, like be different. That's the one thing I love. Be different.
You.
Yeah. Like I'm always like about being different, because it's like the more that you strive high and hold yourself to a high standard, like you'd be surprised at like all the certain things that you can accomplish. Like I had no idea that I would end up winning an Emmy for the show that I worked on. Like, you know, and the thing is like, we don't go around thinking stuff like that. Like I didn't go around manifesting it. I was just like, you know, the producer just entered it in. I was like, okay, I'll put in, I'll put in my name in the hat and we'll just see where it goes. And like, it's crazy because with those awards, like you have to, you put in a lot of money and sacrifice a lot of money just to even simply go there. Cause your nomination costs like $100. You have to pay for the hotel. You have to pay for all these other things. And so it's like, you know, you're taking a big risk in order to win. And then when you win, it's like the greatest feeling ever. Yeah. And then obviously when you lose, it's like, okay, it sucks, but we're at the hotel. We're going to have a good time anyway. But, it's just like I said, when you put your mind to something and you really hone in on it and just like know that like when you strive high and you manifest and you believe in something that you want to do, like you can accomplish anything you want. And it's just kind of crazy to see how that all is sort of played out. But like, we've all experienced different moments within this journalism field. If there was one issue or one sort of trouble in journalism that you could fix, what would it be and why?
Well, that's hard. I feel like the worst thing in journalism is like a lot of digital. A lot of the things that we see on social media, like obviously misinformation, it's just like so split. And I feel like our country has never been so divided political party wise, and I feel like a lot of it is because of social media, and just like things can be manipulated and, you know, scripted and edited to a point where it's like so believable. And I think that is like a huge, I wish there was like ways people could, you know that it was fake. I mean, I think misinformation is just the biggest thing. But then there's the whole issue with censorship, and it's like, it's just hard. It's hard living in a very technologically advanced society.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say like
too.
Yeah, sure, for certainly, no doubt about it. And I think like, at least from my perspective, like I feel like the issue of like people attacking certain reporters, like, when we've seen that happen before, where like reporters, may get under like attacking their live shots, or like just like the toxicity that you get from viewers, especially with like emails or negative, threats and things like that. Like that's one thing I would definitely sort of like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to address it, but there's certainly a way.
I was actually talking to some of our reporters over the weekend about experiences they had just with like being out and reporting in the public, and like some having stalkers, and it's like crazy. Like we're just local like reporters. It's not like I'm, hosting the Today Show. Like we're just local reporters. Yeah. They have, their fair share of stories and scary moments, and like it's wild. I definitely feel like we have a very risky job. Not we as in me and you, but like certain journalists, Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it makes me not want to do it, but, it is definitely something that I could very well experience if I were to get into that side of journalism. And so hearing all that too, I'm worried about our reporters when we send them out to places. And over that, or like a week ago or 2 weeks ago or so, when we had one of our reporters out, she like relocated because the scene was like a little bit sketch. And you're just like, oh my God, not worth it. Move.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's crazy to think about like, when you mentioned with the stalkers, like there are people who like think of these like journalists not even as human beings, as like, and almost as if they're not even real or whatever. Like it's just, it's kind of like crazy to think about like just the not the toxicity, but like that, that sort of mindset that people have about reporters and things in the business is just like, it's crazy. So that's certainly one thing that I think I would change. I know now, like, is there one aspect that you could keep or at least like improve on?
One aspect we keep or improve on. I think it's just important that we keep people as informed on as many things as we can. I think it's cool that we have the chance, like NBC is everywhere, first of all, but like even like all the little side work that I do at work, I didn't realize, like we have a podcast for people that want to listen. We have obviously the shows that people watch. We have, the OTT and stuff for social media. We're played at the airport, we're at the gas pump, like we're everywhere. And like, I think it's important that we take advantage of that and, keep people as informed and as objective as we can. Show them what's really going on. Tell them about things that are happening in their community around them. And I think that's just like what what we're here to do. It's the service we provide. Like, people have the right to be informed and should know everything about anything and everything about what's going on.
I think for me, at least, one thing I would keep is just like, always remember to be really good storytellers. You know, I know like Joe Little is one of the best storytellers in the planet. At least I feel like he's like the messiah of storytelling. You know, and just like the way that we tell stories to people, I think I think we need to, that's one aspect I would just keep, because it's like consistently, that's why we get people watching our shows, is because they want to see these people and what they have to tell. They want to see these stories that are going on. You know, Joe Little did a story yesterday about a Chula Vista teen who like found this purse and like gave it back to a woman on a Ring camera. You know, it's like those sort of stories that like, you know, typically people don't see, especially in the South Bay and all these other areas that aren't really talked about, you know, much in news coverage, especially, you know, historically and things like that. I think that's one aspect that I certainly would plan on keeping, or at least continuing to build on. It's just that idea of storytelling and bringing immediacy to the viewers, regardless of, you know, how, or bringing immediacy in terms of how we showcase our stories and things like that, especially within our shows. I
feel like, yes, having a sense of humanity within your reporting is super important. And journalists and MMJs like Joe Little are really good at doing that, and we're lucky to have him there. You know, learn a lot from him, and I feel like a lot of our reporters do a good job at doing that and being very authentic with their stories too. You're right. People do want to see that kind of stuff, and you know, but besides all the bad things going on, good things happen too.
Yeah.
And as much as people, you know, a lot of people tune in to know what's going on, to protect themselves and be safe and be aware of things happening, I think it's important to let them know that good things are happening too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now, before we let you out of here, one more question. How did your time at the DA and all those internships and all the jobs that you've had so far help you in jumpstarting your career? Because I know there's a lot of young journalists that are watching right now. They may be, you know, just starting in the journalism world, just trying to figure themselves out, just trying to get their foot in the pond, foot in the door, or whatever. How did the DA and all these other internships or jobs that you've had, or advice that you talked with people early on in your career so far, how have that helped you in jumpstarting your career?
The DA, I would say, is where my career jump started. You know, and anytime anyone came to the DA and what I would tell them and what I was told, literally everyone will say this to you, but what you put in is what you get out. And before, like, I will admit, my first couple years, my freshman year and sophomore year of college, I was shy, kind of like wasn't confident enough to like go to meetings or like go and join an organization. I was kind of just, you know, adjusting to school first, and that's fine. It's like, if you need to give yourself time to do that before you join anything, do it. But my biggest regret is not joining sooner and not having that. But Daily Aztec gave me that confidence that I didn't have before to even join the Daily Aztec. Now I have that confidence to join and make myself go for anything that I want and make myself go for things that I don't necessarily think I could get. And now I'm not afraid to apply to a bunch of jobs and keep applying and call, and, you know, even if it's something I'm not super, I mean, I wanted to try out print, and it wasn't my first, you know, thing I wanted as an internship, but I ended up doing it and I really liked it. And I learned like, okay, this is something I can do and like bring my talents to. But now I know that like, I want to try something else, and I want to figure something else out and try a different aspect in the industry. And everything, all the tools and things that I had, like my real, you know, that's all from Daily Aztec. Like, that's all your experience you're going to get, all your articles. Like, we post them, videos are posted. Like, you start your career there, and that's what helps you get the jobs and in the industry, in the professional industry. And I wish I had more from, like, I wish I started sooner so I could have more in my belt, and like more that, you know, possibly could have gotten me opportunities faster. And I don't know, the more experience, the better you are. I'm still learning every single day. I still try to like learn. I mean, I pay attention to like everyone's jobs, even if it's not mine, but like just seeing the anchors and reporters and how they do what they do. Like I'm keeping my eyes peeled, and I look up to them too. And I am very content and very happy of where I am, and still always learning. This still feels like the beginning for me. So
yeah. I can say for me, at least, like with the DA, it's funny because I started off in arts and culture, and the first year, my freshman year, I didn't even do anything. I didn't go to meetings like you. I didn't even, you know, respond to any comments, nothing. And then, like, I think it was either my second semester freshman year or like first semester sophomore year, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start doing something, because I can't be out here saying that I'm in the student newspaper and I don't even, you know, there's no stories. I don't write any stories or whatever. So I was like, I better start being proactive and do something about it. And, you know, that's what ended up leading to me being the arts editor, and then ultimately building into the careers that I had with, you know, KVBS and now with NBC. It's like, the biggest thing I would say is just like being able to be proactive about where you want and your intentions, your goals. I think are like so critical, because it's like people do not know where you want. People are not going to know what you want to do. You have to tell them, and you have to be proactive about it, because then if you do that, they're going to be more proactive in getting you to at least some semblance of where you want to be. Sure, they may not know somebody directly, but they may know someone who knows a guy that can get you somewhere. And like, I think, at least for me too, is like, the big thing is always being able to ask questions. Don't be, you know, Joe Little says this all the time. Like, he was like this, like, you know, shy, timid dude, and he never asked questions. And I preach the same thing. Is like, you always want to be asking questions. If you're ever confused about anything, I try to ask questions every day. And it's like, for those up and coming journals, if you ask questions, you seek advice from people, especially your mentors, your professors, your, you know, people that you aspire to be in the journalism field, whether that's a reporter, whether that's a producer, whether that's an anchor, whatever, you know, reaching out to them, sending a message, like connecting, and those things, building connections. I think building a network is so big. I can't stress that enough. I mean, I don't think I would be where I'm at today without building a network. And so those are the, sort of tips that I would share as far as like how all these things jump started my career.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Networking, you know, never burn a bridge. Always stay in touch with your colleagues. You never know if you'll end up, you know, helping one another get to where you want to be. And I feel like for me too, a big thing I did, don't ever doubt yourself. I feel like I always like never gave myself enough credit, and felt like, oh, well, I don't think I could get that, or I don't think I could do that. Or I was like, even becoming multimedia editor, I was like, I don't have experience. Like, I don't know as much as like my previous editor did. Like, I just doubted myself more than I should have, because like I was super capable of it. I just didn't see it. And like, now that looking back on it, I'm like, why did I ever doubt myself? Like, I probably could have been doing stuff sooner if I had just believed in myself a little bit more. Like, you're really capable of anything you set your mind to if you want it. Like, you're not, it's not too late. So I just, like, even though I had regrets not doing things sooner in my college career, it still got me to where I am now. And I don't have any regrets besides that.
Yeah. Angela, thanks for coming on. Anything else that you would like to tell the listeners that I haven't asked you about already?
I feel like we talked about pretty much everything. I just say, like we just said now, you know, keep going for what you want to do. Don't doubt yourself. Be annoying. Step out of your comfort zone. Like, really, that's really what you have to do to, you know, get where you want to be and do what you want to do. No matter what it is, it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have to put yourself in positions you don't want to get to where you want to be. And like, it's a tough pill to swallow, but we all got to do it. And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad that, you know, after everything, after a couple of years, we're back in the same newsroom, and, you know, industry gets small, and I've had, you know, the best time learning and working with you and everybody else at NBC. So I'm super excited, and thank you for having me. I feel honored.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being on. Listeners, don't forget to follow Angela on Twitter at Angela B. Kurysh. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram at On The Record Pod. Also follow the host, Devin Watley, on Instagram at Devin Watley 12, and on Twitter at Devin Watley. Angela, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.